There are moments in life when you discover that the impact you made on someone's heart is far deeper than you ever expected. You may not see yourself as extraordinary. You may not think of your kindness as anything unusual. You may believe that what you offered was simple, ordinary, or even accidental. But to someone who had only known love as a battlefield, your gentleness is nothing short of a revelation. Someone clings to you because you taught them that love does not have to hurt, does not have to be earned with fear, does not have to be bargained with silence. You showed them that love can feel safe, and in doing so, you became a lighthouse they didn't know they'd been searching for. There is something profoundly courageous about a person who lets themselves be softened by another. Especially when softness was once a danger. Especially when trust used to feel like stepping into darkness without a lamp. When someone clings to you, it's not because they are weak. It's because they finally discovered a place where their heart doesn't have to brace for impact. Your presence became the first quiet room after years of doors slamming. The first warm day after a long winter that convinced them the cold was permanent. And when a person like that holds on to you, it's not out of desperation. It's gratitude wrapped in trembling hope. You may not have planned to change someone's life. You may not have seen the exact moment when their heart shifted. But somewhere between the way you listened without judgment and the way you remembered tiny details of their life they didn't think mattered, they realized that they were no longer standing alone. You became a proof of concept for a version of love they stopped believing existed. And as strange as it may feel to be held so tightly, so earnestly, it is worth recognizing that not everyone has been given that kind of foundation. Some people grew up learning that affection is a trap. Some were taught that vulnerability is ammunition others will eventually fire back at them. Some lived entire chapters of life convinced that the safest thing to do was to feel nothing at all. Then you arrived, not with fireworks. Not with dramatic promises. But with consistency. With presence. With a tone of voice that didn't rise when they stumbled, and didn't withdraw when they were quieter than usual. You showed them a version of love that had room for imperfections. A love that didn't keep score. A love without deadlines or conditions. And for someone who lived most of their life expecting love to be snatched away the moment they relaxed, that kind of softness feels like the world rewrote its rules overnight, so when they cling, they are not asking you to save them. They are letting themselves trust, maybe for the first time. They are trying to memorize the feeling of safety because safety was never something they could rely on. They are holding on to the place inside themselves that you helped unlock, the place that whispers, maybe I deserve something gentle after all. It can feel heavy at times. When someone sees you as their anchor, it may make you wonder if you are strong enough, patient enough, stable enough. But understand this, they are not clinging to you because they expect you to be perfect. They are clinging to the feeling your presence creates within them, one they rarely, if ever, encountered before. A feeling that they don't want to lose. A feeling that tells them life doesn't have to be a constant test of endurance, and that is the beautiful, fragile, powerful truth of human connection. When you show someone kindness in a world that taught them to be guarded, you are not just offering comfort. You are giving them permission to breathe. You are helping their nervous system learn a new rhythm. You are teaching their heart a language it was never spoken to in before. There are people who walk through life with their fists closed, their shoulders tight, their eyes always scanning for danger. And there are those who have learned to shrink themselves to survive, to apologize for taking up space, to disguise their pain under humor or silence. When someone like that finds love through you, they cling because for the first time, they don't have to hide. That kind of transformation isn't small. It's monumental. But it doesn't arrive with trumpets. It arrives quietly, in moments most people overlook. It happens in the way they sigh when they sit next to you, the kind of exhale a body makes only when it stops bracing. It happens in the way their voice softens when they talk to you. It happens in the way they smile without thinking, as if their face is remembering how to be unguarded. It happens in the questions they ask you. Not because they need answers but because they want reasons to keep hearing your voice. It happens when they start believing that they are more lovable because you love them without making them jump through hoops, and in those moments, you become the difference between a person surviving and a person learning how to live. The truth is that love can wound. Love can heal. But it is trust that transforms a life. The willingness to open a scarred heart is one of the bravest acts a human being can perform. When someone clings to you, they are allowing you to witness the parts of them that once hid in the corners. The parts that never dared to hope somebody would stay. They are offering you the most fragile artifact of their life, their vulnerability, and trusting you not to drop it. And it matters more than you think, because every time you reassure them without making them feel needy, you rewrite a memory from their past. Every time you listen without rushing them, you teach them that their emotions don't inconvenience the world. Every time you welcome their presence instead of tolerating it, you prove that connection doesn't have to be earned through performance. Every time you hold space for their fears without dismissing them, you remind them they are no longer alone inside the storm that shaped them. Someone clings to you because you unintentionally became a safe harbor. You may not realize it, but you're giving them something they've been trying to find for years. You're giving them room to rest. And rest is one of the rarest forms of love. There is a quiet responsibility that comes with being someone's safe place. Not a burden. Not an obligation. But an understanding that when a person has walked through fire, even a small breeze feels like a miracle. You do not have to fix their past. You do not have to be perfect every moment. You do not have to carry the weight of their entire story. But you can continue being the soft landing that life never gave them before. You can continue showing them that relationships do not have to be war zones. You can continue being honest, steady, and kind in ways they can depend on. And if you worry sometimes that their attachment is too strong, remember this: people eventually stop clinging when their hearts fully believe they are safe. What looks like dependence now is simply the early stage of emotional relearning. One day, that grip will loosen. Not because they love you less, but because you helped them build a foundation inside themselves. One day, they will stand tall not because you held them up, but because you stood beside them long enough for them to gather their strength. The beautiful irony is that the more consistent you are, the less terrified they become of losing you. The more you show them authenticity, the less they feel the need to cling. What you're seeing now is the bridge between fear and trust, between survival mode and openness. And bridges, by nature, are temporary passages to better places. You are not responsible for their healing, but you are part of the reason they believe healing is possible. You are not their entire world, but you are the first corner of it that ever felt warm. You are not the answer to every question they carry, but you are the first person who made them feel like their questions weren't shameful. This is why they cling, because you are safe, because you keep your promises, even the small ones, because your presence doesn't ask them to shrink or pretend, because your kindness doesn't disappear when they are anxious or afraid, because your love, or your care, or your friendship, whatever form this connection takes, reminds them that goodness still exists, because you are the proof that not all closeness leads to wounds. Remember that people who cling are not desperate for attention, they are desperate for reassurance, for consistency, for stability, for a sense of belonging that doesn't crumble under the weight of their past. You're not giving them dependence, you're giving them oxygen. And people who have been underwater for a long time don't let go of the first breath they get, but with time, they will rebuild themselves. Your presence will help them grow confident enough to unclench their fears. Your steady heart will teach theirs how to beat without panic. Your patience will help them find their own voice, their own courage, their own light, and one day, the cling will turn into comfort, the kind that doesn't need proof, only presence. The world tries to romanticize independence as the highest virtue, but the truth is that humans are wired for connection. We heal in the warmth of relationships. We grow in the presence of acceptance. We learn love through the people who show it to us, not the ones who denied it. So do not underestimate the impact you have on someone's life simply by being gentle in a world that taught them to brace for harm. Someone clings to you because love, through you, feels like breathing again. Maybe you don't see the full picture. Maybe you don't realize how deeply your words land. Maybe you don't understand how many nights they stayed awake questioning their worth until you spoke to them with a tone that felt like sunlight. Maybe you don't realize how much strength it takes for a person who has been hurt to admit they care. But you don't need to understand everything to appreciate the beauty of what's unfolding. You are teaching someone how to trust life again. You are showing them that closeness doesn't have to come with sharp edges. You are helping them rewrite a definition of love that once only brought pain. And that matters in ways most people never get to realize about themselves. Some people spend their whole lives searching for a heart that feels safe. You became that heart without even trying. When you wonder why they hold on so tightly, remember the version of themselves they had to survive to get here. Remember that every fear, every question, every hesitation is a leftover scar from a life that didn't treat them gently. And remember that you are not their whole story, but you are the chapter where things start to change. This isn't dependency. This isn't weakness. This is healing in motion. A person clings not to the one who saves them, but to the one who makes them believe they can save themselves. So let yourself appreciate the quiet miracle of it. Let yourself see the beauty in being trusted. Let yourself recognize that you are offering something the world doesn't give easily, a feeling of safety that doesn't need to be earned through fear or perfection. You are giving someone a home inside themselves by showing them what home can feel like in another, and that is one of the greatest gifts one human being can give another, because in the end, love, real love, safe love, gentle love, isn't about possession. It's about transformation. It's about creating a space where someone feels brave enough to bloom. It's about nurturing the parts of them that were taught to hide. It's about reminding them that they are not too much. Not too fragile, not too complicated to be cared for. And when someone clings to you, it's because, for the first time in their life, they don't have to walk through their fears alone. They feel seen. They feel understood. They feel held. They feel safe. Maybe you didn't mean to teach them all that, but you did, without a lesson plan, without intention. Without even realizing, your kindness did it, your patience did it, your steadiness did it, your honesty did it, your presence did it, and the echo of that kindness will follow them long after the fear quiets. Even when they no longer cling, they will carry the blueprint of the safety you gave them into every corner of their future. And that is a legacy far more powerful than any grand gesture. You taught someone that love can feel safe. That is why they hold on. That is why they trust you. That is why they soften around you. That is why their heart, for the first time in a long time, feels like it belongs somewhere. It belongs where it is not threatened, where it is not judged, where it is not dismissed, where it does not need armor, where it is allowed to exist without fear. They cling because they finally found that place in you. There comes a point when you start to notice the quiet ways someone relaxes into the version of themselves they only express around you. It might be subtle at first, almost invisible. The way their shoulders lower when you walk into the room. The way their eyes soften when they speak to you, as if your presence turns down the volume of the chaos in their mind. These are not accidents. These are signs of a heart learning safety. And when a heart learns safety, it reaches, sometimes gently, sometimes desperately, not out of possession but out of relief. When someone clings to you, it is not because you are their only source of strength. It is because you helped them rediscover their own. You became the mirror that reflects a version of them they stopped believing in, a version that is worthy of kindness, capable of love, deserving of softness. And once a person feels seen in a way they never were before, they hold on to that experience with all the care of someone protecting a treasure they never expected to find. it's easy to underestimate this kind of attachment, especially when you are the one doing the giving. You might think your presence is ordinary, your gestures simple, your words unremarkable. But the effect you create in someone else's life is not measured by how effortless it feels to you. It is measured by how deeply it touches a part of them that has long been neglected. You see, some people grew up learning how to survive, how to hide their bruises, how to swallow their fears, how to smile when they were hurting because the world around them didn't permit anything else. They carried emotional weight for so long that their arms began to forget what it feels like to hold something light. Then you arrived, not to carry their burdens for them, but to show them that they never deserved to carry so much alone. There is a kind of love that isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't ask to be displayed or praised. Instead, it moves quietly, rearranging the landscape of the heart without making a sound. You offered that kind of love, through your actions, your presence, your consistency. So when someone clings to you, you are witnessing the outcome of all the ways you've gently reshaped their belief in what love can be. They cling because they trust you. They trust the steadiness in your voice, the warmth in your hands, the truth in your eyes. They trust that your kindness is not a temporary performance but a natural extension of who you are. They trust that you won't disappear at the first sign of discomfort or emotion. And for someone who has lived with abandonment, inconsistency, or emotional volatility, trust is the rarest currency. They cling because trust feels new. They cling because safety feels foreign. They cling because peace feels unfamiliar. And you are the bridge between the world they came from and the world they are learning to believe is possible. To be this bridge is not a burden, it is a profound privilege. You are not replacing their past, you are helping them reinterpret it. You are showing them that their fears do not make them unlovable. That their anxiety does not make them too difficult. That their desire to hold on is not a flaw but a sign of a heart trying to find its footing again. People do not cling when they feel secure. They cling when they are on the verge of it. When they are testing the waters of hope. When they are relearning how to rest without fear of being punished for it, and as they slowly internalize the safety you offer, they begin to transform. They begin to speak without apology. They begin to laugh without checking who is watching. They begin to cry without expecting you to run away. They begin to breathe without waiting for something to go wrong. They begin to trust their own instincts again. They begin to love themselves not because you told them to, but because you showed them what love feels like. Do you realize how rare that is? Most people never get to experience a love that teaches them safety. Many confuse intensity with connection, instability with passion, emotional chaos with depth. But you offered something else, something calmer, something clearer, something steady enough to rebuild a heart on. Someone clings to you because you did not make love conditional. You did not make presence transactional. You did not make affection something they had to earn. You gave freely, not recklessly, but sincerely, and sincerity is a language the wounded learn to cherish with reverence. Sometimes, when you look at them, you might wonder why they look at you as if you're made of something impossible. But from their perspective, you are. You are the person who didn't flinch when they trembled. You are the person who didn't shame them for needing reassurance. You are the person who didn't weaponize their vulnerability. You are the person who didn't walk away when things became quiet, emotional, or complicated. You stayed, and staying is something their soul was not prepared for. No matter how much healing someone does on their own, there is a certain kind of healing that only happens in the presence of another person. Healing that requires safety. Healing that requires gentleness. Healing that requires being witnessed and accepted in the places that once felt unbearable. You became that safe space. Unintentionally. Naturally. Beautifully, and because of that, someone clings to you. Not because they want to restrict you. Not because they want to control you. Not because they want to consume your life. But because a deep part of them, the part that was once convinced it would never be held safely, wants to stay close to the warmth that helped them thaw. Over time, the cling transforms. What begins as intense attachment slowly relaxes into a stable, grounded bond. They no longer cling out of fear but out of affection. They no longer hold on because they are scared but because they genuinely enjoy the connection. They no longer depend on your reassurance for survival but embrace your presence as a joy, not a necessity. And you will notice this metamorphosis in the calmness of their gaze, the steadiness of their tone, the confidence in their steps. You will see it in the way they begin encouraging you, supporting you, uplifting you, not because they feel indebted, but because love becomes a two-way street once fear loosens its grip. This is what safe love does. It transforms both people involved. Because while they learn safety from you, you learn something too. You learn the power of gentleness. You learn the impact of consistency. You learn that your presence carries a weight you never noticed. You learn that offering kindness can rebuild someone's belief in themselves, and in the world. And perhaps most importantly, you learn that love does not need to be grand to be life-changing. It only needs to be honest. The world is full of noise, opinions, distractions, expectations, fears, but the kind of connection you offer cuts through all of that. It is the sort of connection that roots itself in the quiet spaces, in the subtle gestures, in the soft moments that most people overlook. And because of that, someone clings to you not out of desperation but out of recognition. They recognize the rarity of what they've found. They recognize the purity of what you give. They recognize the truth in the way you care. And they do not want to lose a love that finally feels like home.